This is Nemona, your main rival in the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet games. Nemona would like to have a Pokemon battle with you. Wait, like now? Oh, come on, you know you want to battle. No, I need to do the introductions so people know who you are. Battle first, introductions later. I don't even have a Pokemon yet. Oh, you should have said that to begin with. Guess we'll have to battle another time. Bye. Whew, that girl has one brain cell and all it thinks about is Pokemon battles. By the time we meet her in-game, she has already become a champion ranked trainer who's bored out of her mind because there's no one strong enough to rival her in battle. No one. She somehow sees potential in us and even makes a brand new team from scratch while we're off doing our treasure hunt. Sorry Tauros, you get to sit in the box. Mrr. This made me wonder just how good is Nemona at Pokemon battles. To find out, I decided to play through Pokemon Scarlet as Nemona, but younger. I realized she has other Pokemon, loads of other Pokemon, but apart from the boxed bowl, we don't really know which ones. So to keep this run as true to character as possible, I will only use her rival team that we see in-game, with some extra rules to make it a challenge. The only question is, which starter would Nemona pick? Well, that was easy. After collecting her Fuecoco from Director Clavel, Nemona rushes off to Poco Path, where there's loads of Pokemon to catch, and of course, she'd go for the most Pokemon-y Pokemon of them all, Pikachu. I'm so glad they brought back the chubby motto for this game, and with her early game team complete, it was time to begin my treasure hunt as Nemona. Unlike Arvin, who's going after some cooking ingredients, or Cassiopeia, who wants to bring down Team Star, Nemona's treasure hunt is to battle every single Pokemon trainer in the Paldea region. Sounds like Nemona, alright, so that's what I'll have to do. Battle every single trainer in Paldea. There can't be that many of them, right? 277. I guess instead of running off to the first gym, I'll instead have to run into every trainer I can battle before going to the next route. Good thing Nemona is a trainer and not a car on the road, because if she was bumping into others while driving, she might be hearing from today's sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. Not to be confused with Morgrem & Morgrem, the Pokemon. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. They've got over 800 lawyers across the country, which happens to be more lawyers than there are creatures in a certain creature collecting video game. And if you are like me and thought that getting a lawyer is complicated and expensive, oh boy do I have news for you. We're in the 21st century now, and Morgan & Morgan has modernized the injury law process. With Morgan & Morgan, you can submit a claim without ever having to leave the couch. No getting all dressed up and being stuck in traffic just to read and sign some paperwork. You can get everything set up, reviewed, and signed from your phone. Technology sure is amazing. And what about the expensive part? Well, unlike a certain RPG where you have to pay money when you lose a battle, with Morgan & Morgan, if they don't win for you, you pay nothing. So if you're ever injured in an accident, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. You can submit a claim in 8 clicks or less without having to leave your couch. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/Vasko Games or dial #law. That's pound 529. You can also just click the link below. Thank you Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring today's video. Nemona had an easy time taking down most of the trainers on the hill towards Mesagoza, the only exception being that one hiker lady with her roly-coly, which has a resistance to her attacks and also spams smoke screen at us. I did try to get off the beaten path a bit and challenge this black belt that claims to be the strongest trainer in Area 1, but considering he leads with a level 11 Rockruff, I realized I'm way out of my league, and that Nemona probably would not be intentionally going in a completely opposite direction just to sneak in some extra Pokemon battles before class. But if those battles were on the way to class, well, that's a different story. Of course, Team Star can't do anything against Nemona, who also happens to be the student body president, and in terms of power levels, everyone knows that the student body president straight up rivals God. These grunts are going to need some really strong legendary Pokemon to stand a chance against her, just like all of the other evil teams in Pokemon games. Am I right, fellas? After completing our special class to get the Terra Orb, Nemona is now free to explore the Paldea region during the treasure hunt, and even though she wants to battle every trainer, her journey will lead her towards the strongest opponents she can find, the gym leaders. Nemona faced many trainers on her way to Cortando, the only real challenge being this backpacker who was a little lost, aka he had much higher level Pokemon than literally anyone else near him, but Nemona managed to win by spamming Round, which does more damage each consecutive hit, paralyzing the Sableye thanks to Palmy's static ability, which triggers when hit with a physical contact move, then uses her one-time heal on Fuecoco and sweeps with a series of embers. The Cortando gym trainers got Nemona excited since they were supposed to be pretty strong, but since bug types take double damage from fire attacks, it was an easy victory for her. And since we've been getting a ton of experience from fighting every trainer we could find, Vasko managed to evolve right before the battle against Katie. This meant we could easily bake Katie's bug type Pokemon into a cake that only my dragon would enjoy. Since the gym battle was too easy, Nemona started to wonder if there's anyone or anything she could go battle for more of a challenge. Lucky for her, Arvin, a classmate from Nemona Academy, was in need of some help to take down these giant Pokemon which were guarding some herbs that he wanted to pick. So she made her way to the canyons near Artazon and found the first of these titans, Cloth. And considering it is a pure rock type, this battle will not be as easy. Palmy could use its dig attack to deal some major damage, but couldn't withstand a vice grip from the giant crab. This meant it was all up to Crocalor. Round was not doing much damage, especially since rock resists normal type attacks, and we also triggered Cloth's ability, Anger Shell, which boosted its attack and speed but lowered its defenses, allowing us to do a lot more damage. We managed to win despite our disadvantage thanks to Crocalor's great stat combo of high special attack and high physical defense. Since Artazon was nearby, Nemona decided to go and challenge the second gym leader to battle next, but just like Katie, the little old Brassius stood no chance against our fire type moves. Sudowoodo managed to tank one attack but barely did any damage to us, so it went down the second turn and Brassius gave us the second gym badge. Well, I guess Nemona already had that from last year. Since the gym leaders were too weak for Nemona, she decided to continue helping Arvin with the Titans, making her way back to Cortondo and up towards the windmills. On the way, she ran into Rockruff, the only Pokemon that's managed to defeat her so far. And of course it's a rock type, which has the advantage over Bombardier. But unlike Cloth, the Stork does not play around. It dodges our rock throws and plucks her puppy off the battlefield. Thankfully, Crocalor is bulky enough to take those wing attacks and burn the bird away. It seems that not even the Titans posed a good enough challenge for Nemona, but from the top of this mountain, Nemona noticed something interesting in the distance. No, not the abandoned ancient tower, these flags. These flags most definitely belong to Team Star, and as the student body president, it's Nemona's job to make sure that these students aren't causing any trouble. Plus, she gets to battle them if they are, so it's a win-win for her. Considering they've stolen school desks to build a bunch of barricades, she'll definitely get to battle her heart out. Except unlike regular grunts that hang out in Mesagoza, these guys will send out loads of Pokemon to battle her. Perfect. After taking out all of the grunts, Nemona finally gets to fight the Team Star boss. The only problem is that it's Giacomo, the former student body president. Sounds like a perfect opponent for Nemona. His Ponard easily one-shots her poor little Rockruff, but Crocalor returns the favor, making this an easy win, except it's not that simple. Apart from the Ponard, Giacomo has another Pokemon, this Car Quest, which is pretty intimidating. We try to put it to sleep with Yan, but the move fails. Not only that, but it starts attacking us with Snarl, which doesn't do much damage, but lowers our special attack stat by one stage, and Crocalor is a special attacker. That leaves just Pomo, who uses Nuzzle to Nuzzle is a move that is guaranteed to cause paralysis when it hits an opponent. I guess these battle machines are immune to status conditions, which will make them one of the hardest opponents Nemona will face during her journey. Our last option was to attack with Arm Thrust, which was supposed to be super effective, but barely did any damage. It appears that the new student body president has yet to acquire enough power to defeat her predecessor. But that's great news for Nemona, since it means she now has a worthy opponent. So even though she has to retreat for now, she'll be back for a rematch after training up her team a bit more. Her next stop is in Levincia, which is all the way on the other side of Paldea. In this city of lights, Nemona can find a cool black case for her Rotom phone, as well as the third gym. There, she tested her ability to spot Principal Clavel. This is an easy task for Nemona since she knows he must be good at Pokemon battles, and can easily pick him out of any crowd. She also gets to battle against some of Iono's fans, who were not much of a challenge for Rockruff. Having cleared the gym test, Nemona can now face off against Iono, who leads the battle with a Watch Roll. It gets to paralyze us with its Spark attack, and then the paralysis prevents us from attacking for one turn, and just when I thought poor little Rockruff was done for, it finally got to attack with Rock Tomb and one-shot the bird. Out next was Bellivault against Pomo, who used Dig to hide itself for one turn, and deal major damage the next. Iono did try to attack us with a Spark attack, but that just triggered Pomo's ability, Volt Absorb, which restores 25% of our health when hit with an electric type move. Thanks Iono. Her Luxio was a bit intimidating at first, but could barely do any damage with its bite attacks, so it also got taken out by our Digs. That just left Miss Magius, who has the Levitate ability, which means we can't use Dig to cheese this one. We try to attack with Arm Thrust, but barely do any damage. Meanwhile, Miss Magius confuses us and takes us down with a Hex. That just leaves Crocalor, who terastallizes into a fire type, which effectively doubles the base power of all our fire type moves, and that was still not strong enough to win this fight. Iono tries to confuse Crocalor as well, but our little gator was unfazed by the confusion. It also manages to bulk through the hex attacks and finish off the fight with an incinerate. Apart from getting ourselves the 3rd gym badge, we also got Rockruff to evolve into Lycanroc. Iono must have used confusion on me again because I was pretty sure that it was nighttime during our gym battle, but then it suddenly turned to day when Rockruff began to evolve? I guess that's a good thing, because if it had evolved at night, it would have turned into the midnight form and I would have had to do the whole battle all over again. Not speaking from experience or anything. On her way out of Levencia, Nemona noticed that there was another Team Star base. Her eyesight must be very good because even up close, these graphics are very bad. Her Pommel easily took down the grunt out front, and that meant she got to fight yet another Team Star leader, Mela, and she is not happy to see us. Her Torkoal may be weak to ground type moves, but it packs so much physical bulk that we barely scratch its health. Meanwhile, its Flame Wheel shreds through ours like it's cheddar cheese. Good news is that Lycanroc can easily finish off the turtle. That just leaves the Flaming Car, which seems to be pretty weak to rocks. Also, a Rock Tomb move is able to reduce its speed each time it hits, which perfectly counters its speed boost ability, allowing Lycanroc to hold the advantage throughout the battle. Having cleared out the Shedder base, Nemona made her way back to Giacomo, but got distracted by all the trainers near Artrazon and found herself near the secret beach where she ran into this cute little Goomy. Eventually, she got back to the 2nd base for a rematch, and this time she had the upper hand. Lycanroc was a lot bulkier and could deal more damage despite having a type disadvantage, and Pommel was so over leveled that it could smack around the Dark Revavroom with those arm thrust attacks even after being intimidated. Man, being over leveled makes such a difference. The victory disappointed Nemona. She thought she had found a worthy opponent, a worthy rival, but it seemed that Giacomo didn't bother making his team any stronger after their last battle. You would think the game would scale, but it doesn't. To boost her spirits, Nemona ran through a sandstorm into Cascarafa where she bought some new shoes and tights. After all, she's defeated every single trainer in the southern half of Paldea, so her only option was to go north. But it's a bit chilly up there, so she thought a few extra clothes would be useful. Just before she could challenge Gym Leader Kofu to battle, he ran off towards Porto Marinata, and since she didn't want to just sit there and wait in the gym, she decided to go after him. When she got there, some random guy decided to block her way, so Nemona did what she does best and challenged him to a battle. Despite having a weakness to water type moves, Lycanroc was able to take down the Floatzel with some rocks and then one-shot the Clauncher. This guy was all talk and no walk. Shame. The good news was that Kofu noticed her little bra and agreed to battle Nemona if she could win the bid war for some seaweed. Auction battles are not nearly as fun as Pokemon battles, but a promise is a promise. So when we got back to Cascarafa, it was time for a gym battle. Kofu starts out with his Veluza, which is part psychic type, so it's rather weak to dark type moves like Bite, and could easily be finished off with an Accelerock. Out next was Wugtrio, who turned out to be very weak to rocks despite living in one. And last but not least was Crabominable, who actually managed to one-shot Lycanroc after terastallizing into a pure water type. The thing about water types is that they're weak to electricity. Some might say shocking victory, but Nemona still felt like she barely had to try. Instead of going towards the next gym in Medali, Nemona decided to go back towards Zapapico to look for another Team Star base. However, while running around the mines, she found something way better, a truly powerful opponent, Esther the student, whose dialogue line only reveals that she hates getting sand in her mouth, yet she was the only NPC that managed to win against Nemona. Her Sunflora one-shot Lycanroc, and then her Donphan just bulldozed through Goomy, Pommel, and Crocalor. I guess both the past and present forms of Donphan are just too much for Nemona to handle. We did come back for a rematch and won the second time thanks to Crocalor using Yawn to put the Donphan to sleep, and for this victory, Crocalor got to evolve into its final form, Skeledirge. Nemona also found a giant Earthworm in the mines, which turned out to be the Lurking Steel Titan. A challenge perhaps? Sadly not, as Lycanroc managed to get 3 flinches in a row with its bite attack. It did pose a bit more of a threat for the second phase of the battle and knocked out Arven's Toadschool, but Lycanroc still managed to pull off a victory all by itself. Okay, maybe the Team Star Leader will be more of a challenge. He starts out with a Skuntank that poisons and sucker punches our Lycanroc, but that's all it could do. Wanting to keep the battle even, Nemona decides to switch Lycanroc out and send out Pommel, who ends up super sweeping the small Revavroom with a dig attack. Muk turns out to be just as weak, so once again, that just leaves the giant car. Our dig triggers its Toxic Debris ability, which scatters some toxic spikes on the field. This reminds me of a certain someone. Anyway, Goomy finally gets to enter a battle, only to get instantly ran over, which leaves just Skeledirge. Finally, a challenge, except that this Revavroom only uses physical attacks, and Skeledirge has a really high physical defense, so it barely does any damage to us. Nemona decided to go extra easy on this enemy by not terastallizing her final Pokemon, and even then, she still won with ease. Hungry for more battles, Nemona goes to challenge the Medali Gym, where she has to defeat other challengers to steal their clues and piece together the secret menu item order. All of that just to battle Larry. His Kamala bulks through a set of arm thrusts and puts Pommel to sleep, and then his Dunsparce swoops in to finish it off. It also manages to paralyze Lycanroc with a glare before going down. Staraptor then intimidates us and terastallizes into a normal type to ditch its weakness to rock type moves. And even with all of these debuffs on it, Lycanroc still managed to bulk through several attacks, slow down Staraptor with Rock Tomb, and then finish it off. Another victory for Nemona. Wahoo! At least we got a free Mew out of this one. Our next opponent is all the way up in the mountains, so Nemona takes the scenic route where she once again battles every single trainer, but this time has little Pommel walking around with her. You see, to evolve this Pokemon, you need to have it walk 1000 steps, and even though this game does not provide a pedometer, I guess it takes about 1000 steps to make it up the mountain, because this little guy managed to evolve right before we made it to Montenevera. Once we got there, Nemona goes to battle Gym Leader Rhyme, who uses the double battle format for her gym. So we start off with a Rock Slide, which hits both Pokemon and breaks Mimikyu's disguise, then finish off Bayonet with a Spark. We easily crunch her Houndstone, and poor Mimikyu is hanging on for dear life, even though it's already dead. Rhyme tries to hype up the crowd with her Toxtricity, but since it terastallized into a Ghost type, it gained a weakness against our Dark type move. All she could do after such a humiliating defeat is give us a thumbs up and a badge. The next stop for Nemona was Alfornada, where she took Dendra's ESP class in hopes of finding a way to deal with all of these disappointing negative emotions. All Nemona wanted was to battle someone on an even playing field. She certainly wasn't gonna find someone like that in this class though, but all that moving around got her a bit inspired, so she decided to change up her movesets a bit, teaching Stealth Rock to Lycanroc, Shadow Ball to Skeledirge, and Close Combat to Pomod. She then challenged the Psychic type gym leader, but how strong could she be if she's so busy with work that she needs to have 2 cell phones to keep up? Tulip starts the battle by setting up a Reflect, which will reduce physical damage for 5 turns, meaning her crunch attacks won't get to one-shot her team. But despite this defense buff, the Giraffe goes down, and then Gardevoir gets flinched after being hit with a couple of rocks, and by that point the Reflect wore off, so never mind, not much of a challenge. Her final Pokemon did manage to bulk through 1 crunch attack, but it barely had any HP left, so Pomod could literally just finish it off with a quick attack. We're literally winning with like baby Pokemon moves. While running around the caves under Alfornada, Nemona spotted a Dunsparce and thought of a self-imposed challenge. There is a 1 in 100 chance for a Dunsparce to evolve into a 3-segment Dunsparce, so what if she tried to catch one of those? Surely in the time it takes her to find such a rare Pokemon, some trainer out there will have leveled up their team enough to pose a challenge for Nemona. So she bought 100 Quick Balls and walked around Medali in search of some food to boost the encounter rate for normal type Pokemon. One would think that this busy town full of restaurants and a normal type gym leader will have a meal or two that helps boost normal type encounters. Sadly, that was not the case, so Nemona had to set up camp and make herself a ham sandwich. And since the world had decided to rain on her parade, she gave her Sliggoo some candy for dessert to evolve it into a Goodra. Then she went back to the Alfornada cave to battle and catch every Dunsparce she could find. And I gotta say, shiny hunters must have a lot of patience, because I was getting exhausted by the time the first sandwich expired. And people have a lot of patience with Game Freak and all the shortcomings of this game, because being in a cave somehow caused the saturation levels of the sandwich making process to go a little crazy. Why? Anyways, I eventually got one of the Dunsparces to evolve into the rare 3-segment form. Kinda wish they'd show the little Pokedex screen when you evolve the Pokemon into a different form at least. I mean, they already do that every time you catch a Pokemon, why not do it when you evolve a Pokemon? As a fun little side note, I managed to catch 5 Dunsparce with a special ribbon. We got 2 uncommon Dunsparces, a Sleepy Dunsparce, a Dawn Dunsparce, and a Lunchtime Dunsparce. Sadly, we did not complete the day cycle of Dunsparce. Although, speaking of marks, Nemona did go back to catch the Lurking Steel Titan, which is now just a normal-sized Earthworm, but it does come with a former Titan mark, which was pretty cool. It likes to run, eh? Well, they're not wrong. Nemona also likes to run towards another potential challenge. The Quaking Earth Titan has been bugging Nemona for quite some time, but her low-level team simply couldn't dish out enough damage. However, now that we're on an even playing field, this Great Tusk is no longer a great threat. It barely managed to knock out Lycanroc and stood no chance against Pomod. Even in its second phase, it was no challenge for Goodra. Arvin mentioned that the last Titan is near Cassiora Lake, and once again, Nemona found the battle to be extremely easy. Despite having to fight 2 Pokemon back to back, she still came out victorious. You'd think the NPCs would be somewhat of a challenge by this point, but apart from this chef and her Arboliva, it was easy wins all around. Nemona's next opponent was on top of Glacido Mountain, Grusha, the former top snowboarder who tries to scare us away with words but then loses all too easily immediately to just Lycanroc. Come on man, even Ortega was more of a challenge. Although his fairy-type Pokemon couldn't do much against Orthworm and its Iron Tail. However, Ortega did mention something about the final Team Star leader being extra strong, which got Nemona excited. So she went around collecting a few more TMs like Drill Run for Lycanroc, Sludge Bomb and Ice Beam for Goodra, Rock Blast and Body Press for Orthworm, Earth Power for Skeleturge, and finally Ice Punch for Pawmot. But she did have to go and beat up some Cubchoo for the last one because we could only make it at a TM machine. Then she went on to challenge Eri, the final Team Star boss. Her Toxicroak was one-shot by Drill Run, but her Passimian managed to one-shot Lycanroc. Potential! However, since close combat lowers its defense stats, the monkey was easily knocked out by Orthworm's Iron Tail. Annihilate also uses the same reckless strategy, which leaves it wide open to Pawmot. Not open enough. For some reason, I completely forgot that this thing is a ghost type as well, so I tried to finish it off with a quick attack and failed miserably. Lucario was out next to finish off Goodra with Dragon Pulse, but got knocked out by a Drill Run. The fighting car easily ran over poor Dudunsparce, which left Nemona with just Skeleturge. Okay, I like where this is going. Finally, Nemona had a reason to terastalize her Pokemon. Revavroom set up a gear shift to boost its speed and attack, then tried to hit us with a high horsepower, but this physical move barely did any damage to Skeleturge. Meanwhile, our Torch Song was scorching through the car's health, so of course we got another victory. But hey, at least Eri was somewhat of a challenge, unlike literally everyone else Nemona battled so far. With all of the leaders defeated, Nemona made her way back to Mesagoza to look for the mysterious Cassiopeia, the true leader of Team Star. However, she was instead greeted by Clavel, the principal of Naranja Academy. He claimed that he was Cassiopeia all along and challenged us to battle. Sure, why not? Lycanroc set up some Stealth Rocks while Oranguru set up a Reflect to lower physical damage. We tried to attack with Stone Edge, but were powerless against its foul play. Goodra was out next, using Dragon Pulse to finish off the Wise Monkey. Clavel responded with Abomasnow, who bulked through a Sludge Bomb and nearly finished off Goodra with a Blizzard attack. Nearly. This thing knows Ice Shard? I did not see that coming. Dudunsparce came out next and started setting up with Coil, which boosts his attack, defense, and accuracy. Meanwhile, Abomasnow hit us with a Wood Hammer and knocked itself out with Recoil. Houndoom got one-shot by our powered-up Drill Run, but the Among Us managed to bulk through our strongest attack and finished off Dudunsparce. Orthworm finished it off, but missed its Iron Tail attack on Poltegeist and got itself knocked out. Pawmot got burned by a Will-O-Wisp and failed to one-shot with Ice Punch, but at least it froze the Poltegeist. Iced Tea anyone? That left Clavel with just Quaquaval, who terastalized into a pure water type, bulked through our double shock attack and then used Aqua Step to one-shot Pawmot. It was all down to Skeleturge, and for once during this whole run, it was not bulky enough to survive. After going through and battling every trainer in the region, Nemona had finally found a worthy opponent, and she didn't even have to leave school to find him. Determined to win, she went on to train a bit with Arven near the lighthouse, then came back for a rematch. Things started off the same, but instead of going for Goodra, Nemona sent out Dudunsparce and finished off Oranguru with a Hyper Drill. Of course, Clavel made sure to put us to sleep first. Abomasnow set up on Aurora Veil, which works very similarly to Reflect, and then finished off her sleeping Dudunsparce with a series of Wood Hammers. Although all of the recoil made it a weak target for Orthworm and its body presses, but Houndoom was too quick and melted away the Steel Titan with a Fire Blast. Good thing we still have Goodra and its Muddy Water attacks. Poltegeist couldn't do much since we used special attacks, and Among Us wasted its only turn trying to poison us instead of attacking. That left Clavel with just the Quaquaval once more, who like last time terastalized and finished off Goodra, but this time Pawmot was not affected by Burn, which had half their physical damage, so we could attack with Double Shock and actually one-shot this dancing bird. Good job, Clavel. You actually pushed your students to learn and grow stronger. Sadly, Clavel was not the real Cassiopeia. No, it was actually Penny, who posed no threat to Nemona and her team. The only thing left for Nemona to do was to go and challenge the Elite Four, the strongest trainers in the region. First was Rika, who got turbo swept by Goodra and its Muddy Water moves. And then was Poppy, who couldn't do much against Pawmot and its close combat skills. Larry now uses Flying type, so of course his whole team gets taken down by Lycanroc alone. And Hassel, well, at least he doesn't get one shot by everything, mainly because we ran out of PP for his strongest moves. Still, Lycanroc managed to finish off Noivern and one-shot Dragago. Dudunsparce could set up Coil, then take out a couple of dragons with Dragon Rush. Pawmot's Ice Punch was too weak to take down Baxcalibur, and Goodra was too slow to get a hit in, but Orthworm had no issues finishing off the Crown Dragon. Now that just left Gita, the top champion, La Primera, supposedly the strongest trainer of them all. Well, Nemona is technically already champion, so you know how this goes. Her Lumina crashing Espathra manages to finish off Lycanroc, but not Pawmot. Avalugg is a good counter with its massive defense stat, but a close combat nearly one-shots it. Goodra comes in to finish it off, and then Ice Beams the Go-Goat, who was too busy setting up bulk ups. The Veluza got vaulted out of battle with her Dragon Beam, but King Gambit proves to be a little tough. Never mind, they got body slammed by a worm. That just left Glamora, who stood no chance against the body press of a former Titan. Nemona had won, but at what cost? Apart from the former student body president and the principal of the school, no one could truly stand in her way. Was there really no trainer out there who could make Nemona struggle in battle? So as it turns out, Arven's mom has been holed up in the bottom of Area 0 and mentioned something about a bunch of powerful Pokemon being down there. So of course Nemona instantly makes her way there to look for something strong, and she finally finds what she's looking for. Apart from the horde of Pokemon from the past, Nemona gets to face off against Professor Sada for the sake of the whole region. Now that's more like it. And she doesn't use weak, regular Pokemon, but mysterious, powerful Pokemon from the past. Pokemon like Slitherwing, who can easily one-shot Lycanroc, and then can bulk through a powerful attack like Double Shock. Nemona literally has to use 3 Pokemon just to finish off Sada's first. Brute Bonnet was an easy target for Earthworm, and this super smart AI professor fails to recognize that Earthworm has the Earth Eater ability, so she accidentally heals us with her Sandy Shocks. That's the wrong kind of healing. Dunsparce can finish it off, but that Scream Tail and its Draining Punch is too much for us to handle. It plays too rough, even for Goodra. And here we are with our last Pokemon. Meanwhile, Sada still has 2 more. The worst part is the Fluttermane knows Power Gem, so it can easily finish off Skeledirge, and even if we had her one-time heal, there's absolutely nothing we could do here. Nemona had finally met her match, and there were no more trainers left for her to practice with, which meant that she could finally go all out. What, you thought that's all Nemona could do? She's battled every single trainer in the region, and by doing so, she could claim some very useful items from those league reps hanging out around the Pokemon Center. It was time to get serious, equipping various items she's collected from all of these league reps to her team, and then going back for one final rematch. She sets up Stealth Rocks before Lycanroc gets taken down, then follows up with Palmod and a Double Shock to one-shot the Slitherwing. Scream Tail plays rough, but Earthworm is quite buff, so buff that even the annoying Drain Punch strategy won't work against us, allowing Earthworm to outlive the Scream Tail and finish it off with an Iron Tail. The future version's better. Brute Bonnet goes for a ground type attack, which just restores some of our health, and Sandy Shocks fails to finish us off, so we get to do major damage before getting knocked out. Nemona chose the right Titan to capture because this thing just carries. Goodra can finish the Sandy Shocks, and now comes Fluttermane. Good thing Goodra has a lot of special bulk, so we can poison it with a Sludge Bomb, and even though it manages to knock us out, it does go down to the poison. That leaves just Roaring Moon against our 3-segment Dunsparce, who sets up a coil, grabs her one-time heal just in case, and finishes off this fake Mega Salamence with a Dragon Rush. And with that, Nemona has cleared all of Pokemon Scarlet, defeated every single trainer, and became the very best, like no one ever was. Seeing how little challenge she faced during this run, it is no wonder that she gets so excited to meet us, someone who actually bothers to catch more Pokemon and level them up as they go along. Makes you wonder what kind of treasure all these other students are looking for. Also, I know I didn't talk much about all of the NPCs she battled, since there was a lot to unpack there and most of them were very easy wins, but I have decided to make it into its own separate video to talk about all of the lore we can learn about from battling all of these NPCs, so you can look forward to seeing that soon. Be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss it, and if you're still here, do let me know what character you'd like to see next in the comments below. Just make sure it's not one of the gym leaders, since they're already guaranteed a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.